The NCAA sucks. They're full of pansies, and yet again, they have folded like a cheap suit. If you're not a fan of paying college athletes, you better get used to it because it's here to stay.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. And there's a lot to get to on today's show. I told you we were going to take a look at those Big Ten Media Days honors, right? This was voted on by the media at Big Ten Media Days. They don't do a first team, second team, all that type of stuff. They do an honors list, whatever the heck that means. And so we will talk about it, though, because Indiana does make a couple of appearances. We'll also take a look at some Big Ten power rankings or conference rankings going in to the 2025 season. Those were put together by our friend Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football, who claims he was too busy to make an appearance and defend himself. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But the NCAA, they've done it again. They have folded, they've given in, they've taken 2 steps back after they took maybe a half step forward. And the future of college athletics might just be doomed. If you missed the news the other day, believe this was Wednesday evening that this all came out and started to make its rounds. It's this idea that House representatives, yes, in our government, House representatives made a deal or came to an agreement, came to a conclusion with the NCAA and had all these fancy terminology and things and had all this writing and had all of these rules and things that they've been debating, and they have come to a decision. Now, you can go through and read all the legal language if you would like to. You could go and break it all down, but I'll break it down for you simple right here. Paying college athletes is here to stay. And what we thought was getting better with revenue sharing and what was going to hopefully equal things out and balance it a little bit and make it a little bit more regulated, nope. Not anymore. They decided that that's not going to happen because you cannot limit a college athlete and tell them how much they can or cannot make. This was reported by On3's N.I.L account on X a couple of days ago. Again, believe this was Wednesday evening that this came out. It says this. It says House attorneys have reached a deal with the power conferences and NCAA officials that will alter the College Sports Commission relating to how NIL collectives can pay their athletes. The CSC is expected, the College Sports Commission is expected to treat collectives in a similar fashion as other businesses. And you may say, well, what exactly does that mean, right? What does that mean in all of that language? Well, Pete Nakos from On3 said it best. He literally quote tweeted it and said, what does that mean? It means your local NIL collective can still get dollars to top athletes and recruits. Rev share will have a salary cap, but nothing is slowing down a school from building out a $35 million roster. The big piece of information here, right? Because we got this idea about revenue sharing and we're like, oh, okay, cool. $20.5 million as a cap. You can use that across all your sports. You can divvy it up however you want to, right? 80% to football or 10% to basketball. And then, whatever you can spread it out any way you want to. The idea here was that NIL collectives were no longer going to be allowed. They weren't going to be needed. They weren't going to be allowed. And there were already some schools who had started to blow it up, who had started to move on, get rid of them, shut down the department and lock the doors of their NIL collectives, because that's what we were told was going to happen. That's what we were led to believe was going to be the case. Revenue sharing was going to be the end all be all, the fixer, the glue that everybody's been looking for, the Band-Aid, the sewing together to heal the wound. Everything was going to be fine. And we were excited about that. We wanted that for college athletics, for college football in this particular conversation. Because as we've seen over the last, 5 years or so, however long NIL has technically been around, it's just been a free for all, right? It's just been the wild, wild west. It's just been, hey, I have more money than you, or hey, I'm willing to pay that kid more than you are. So there's a good chance I'm going to get him to come to my school, right? You've got people paying for visits. You have people paying for commits. You have people paying just to put a logo next to their name. And we thought a lot of this was going to go away because of revenue sharing. And we knew there was going to be a cap on that. We knew that that value was going to go up, but it was the idea of the days of just paying stupid amounts of money for a 5-star quarterback or a receiver or whoever. We thought those days were gone. Not anymore. They are going to be here, and now they're going to be more important than ever before because revenue sharing is still going to be here, and it will still have a cap on it, which means only a certain amount of dollars can be paid by the athletics department, again starting I think 20.5 million and working its way up over the next 5 to 10 years. You still have to split that around and share the wealth, but now NIL collectives are still able to do what they want to do. You're still allowed to just find money somehow and pay whatever players that you want to, pay whatever recruits, pay a transfer portal kid, pay your own kid just to stay on your roster. We thought we were going in the right direction. And the NCAA was trying to fix this massive mess that they've created, but instead they realized they have no power. They were going to get sued to oblivion, and they've given in thanks to the U.S. government as well. The NCAA sucks. They have no control. They have no power. They are worthless because they have let this get completely out of control. They opened up the floodgates initially on NIL rather than taking the proper steps to make this function in a halfway normal way. They just said, yeah, sure, go ahead, make money, whatever, we don't care. And then realized, oh crap, we can't regulate this. And now you've let it go too far. And I saw somebody say this, I think it was yesterday. Somebody said, and I don't remember who it was, but it was genius. They said the U.S. government has declared that college athletes have a constitutional right now to make money on their NIL, on their name, image, and likeness. And the NCAA has quickly come to realize they can't regulate that. They can't tell if you're I don't care if you're a 3-star backup corner. If you say you're worth $50,000 and somebody's willing to pay you $50,000, the NCAA can't regulate that. And so all these NIL deals that still have to go through NIL Go, okay, fine. They still have to be approved. But what's going to happen the first time the NCAA says, nope, that's not legit. We don't think that's a true business value. We don't think that's an actual real deal or whatever. We think you're just paying them to come to your school. What happens the first time the NCAA tries to deny that? Boom, lawsuit. You're going to get sued and you're going to lose because the NCAA can't do that. And they're realizing that by the minute. And so my whole point to this is we thought we were going in the right direction. We thought it was going to be fixed. And now it's probably going to be worse than ever before. Revenue sharing now becomes basically a signing bonus for any type of college football player. And then you still are going to negotiate whatever sort of NIL deal that you can make, whether it's with a local business that's funding the NIL collective, or whether it's with a big time donor, or whether the school just magically comes up with money to pay you in several payments over your next couple of years. It's only going to get worse. And it sucks. I hate it. That's not what college sports are supposed to be. But with this new regulation, these new rules, all this stuff coming out now, that's the direction that we're heading. But the problem is we're going towards professional athletics that can't be restricted. And that is a scary place to be. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we continue talking some college football. We got some Big Ten power rankings from our friend Spencer McLaughlin from Locked On College Football. And I agree on some, but not on others. We'll talk about where he puts the Hoosiers when we return right after this here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball, under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, right? I know you are. So why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel all summer long for baseball. I may have had a little something on Scotty Scheffler, even though the odds weren't great because he's just the most dominant golfer we've seen since Tiger Woods. But I may have got me a little victory there as well. I was going to be watching the Open, so I was like, you know what? Let me just take a couple of guys. We don't have to talk about the ones that I didn't win because Scotty is awesome. Okay. You can do that too. And if you're new to FanDuel right now, new customers can bet just $5 and they're going to give you $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit fanduel.com to get started. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And a friend of mine, Spencer McLaughlin, who is incredible at what he does here on the Locked On Podcast Network, hosting multiple shows. His main one, I guess, in terms of across the board, across the network, is the host of Locked On College Football. We talked to him quite a bit on this channel. He unfortunately does host Locked On Ducks too, but we're talking about him in the sense of Locked On College Football today. And he very kindly provided us with the Locked On Big Ten guys. He provided us with a conference rankings list going into the 2025 season. And when I reached out to him for comment or for him to hop on the show and talk about this and defend himself, he conveniently was too busy and said that no, he stands by what he says and it doesn't have to defend it, is what he told me. I have the text. I can prove it. Actually, kidding. That was over a phone call. So there's no physical proof, but that is what he said. So you can take my word on that. But he did make a graphic for us and we're going to go through some of these because he has Indiana higher than you think he would. And I think this is going to make some of you very, very happy. And then we kind of can talk about where some of these teams could end up by the end of the season. So if you're on YouTube, I have the graphic for you. If you're on audio, don't worry. I'm going to read through this several times so you'll be able to kind of see what we're talking about. Okay. So this is Spencer McLaughlin from Locked On College Football. These are his conference rankings for 2025 in the Big Ten Conference. And what's so crazy now is the idea that we're talking about 18 teams in the Big Ten. And when I start talking about some of these teams and the fact that a lot of them fall near the end of his conference rankings and they're also on Indiana's schedule, that should tell you why I think we're going over our win total and why I think a college football playoff berth is not off the table. Okay. So here's his conference rankings 1 through 18. We'll start at the bottom, work our way up. He has Purdue at 18. Shocker. Love to see it. Maryland at 17. Kind of surprised by that one. Northwestern is at 16. No surprise there. Rutgers at 15. And UCLA at 14. Now, these are rankings going into the season, more of a power type of rankings. He did not provide us with a rundown of what he kind of based all of this on. My guess is off of his gut feeling, which is fine. That's kind of what we roll with here at times. And so, yeah, I think Maryland a little low at 17. Kind of shocked that UCLA is only at 14, especially with some of the talent they have out there. And then, of course, Nico Iamaleava as well. I think if you're talking about a team in that grouping that can make a jump, I think it is UCLA. And I think those guys and our buddy Zach Anderson-Yoxheimer have Locked On UCLA is definitely hoping that they can make a jump this year and try to get out of the basement and be a competitor in the Big Ten. We go through now, again, as we work our way up. For those of you on audio, I'm reading it for you. 13, he has Wisconsin. He has Wisconsin, and this is going into the season because first 2 years under Luke Fickell have not been all that great for the Badgers, and that schedule's pretty tough. They do have Alabama again this year on that schedule, and I think it's make or break for him this year in Madison. So he's got Wisconsin at 13. Michigan State is at 12. They're just kind of hanging around there. Nebraska is at 11, which seems on the surface seems like it's low, but then you start looking around, it's like, well, I mean, It's time to kind of do something if you're Nebraska. There's tons of room to grow on this list and jump several spots if you're the Cornhuskers, but you got to do something first. And we're looking for Nebraska to do that. Washington is at 10. USC is at 9. So again, Wisconsin 13, Michigan State 12, Nebraska's at 11, Washington at 10, and USC is at 9. These are conference rankings for the Big Ten. And I think a lot of people, I hate it, but a lot of people are starting to jump on this team that I've called a dark horse in this conference. I think Washington's a really good football team, folks. I think that is a really talented team, one that people will sleep on for the most part. But like I said, it is starting to gain a little momentum here. But I do believe that Washington will be a really, really good football team. Okay. I think they're going to be a solid squad. And I think they're going to step up and get some people this year. And so I think they have the most room to grow. I think that USC being kind of right there in the middle of the pack is about accurate, to be quite honest with you. And I just don't see USC moving up a whole lot. I think there's just teams that are better than the Trojans. And I don't believe in Lincoln Riley. I'm sorry. I don't. What has he shown us in Southern California that tells me he's going to win football games this year? I know they're talented. They got some of the best receivers in the Big Ten. I get it, but they've done nothing. Sorry, Mark. It is what it is. Until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. But of that list of teams that can move up, it's got to be the Washington Huskies. Okay, 8 through 5. Here we go. Here's Minnesota at 8. Minnesota, you heard that right. The Gophers, Minnesota at 8. That's wild. Iowa at 7 seems a little high to me going into the season. Michigan is at 6, and your Indiana Hoosiers are at 5. And I love that. I love Indiana being at the 5th spot in these conference rankings because I think that's about accurate. I think you could put us as high as 4. I think you could put us as low as 6, to be quite honest with you. And so we're right there in the middle, sitting at the 5 spot. And that's what our buddy Spencer has us at right now. Minnesota at 8 is wild. And the fact that he refused to come on and defend that is baffling to me. Iowa at 7, I'm curious on what they look like down the stretch because they've got a couple tough games at the start, including Indiana coming to Iowa. What is that, week 5 of the college football season after we play Illinois, after we host Illinois? Remember, we have to go on the road to Iowa. That'll be no joke. And we talked to our friend Trent Condon of Locked On Hawkeyes about that a few weeks ago. Michigan at 6, I think, is fair because Michigan could absolutely be one of the best teams in the Big Ten. We just don't know what they're going to be. We don't know how all that's going to come together just yet. Again, Indiana sitting right there at 5. I think we have one of the most talented rosters in the Big Ten, and people refuse to believe that and won't buy into that, but I think we do. I think Indiana has one of the most talented rosters in the Big Ten. It got better from last year. You've heard me say that time and time again because I believe it. And so Indiana is at 5. Again, I think you could put us as high as 4, which is where he has Illinois. And Spencer's a big believer in Illinois, and that's fine. A lot of people are. He believes that Illinois is going to beat Indiana in that game in Bloomington. A lot of people do. It's fine. They're not going to do it, but it's okay. As Illinois at 4, who's a very good football team. Okay, they're a very, very good football team. They returned the most starting players from a year ago across the conference. They return more starting talent, more snaps from a year ago than anybody else in the Big Ten does Illinois. That is a big reason people are buying it on a team that won double-digit games last year. I'm just not buying it yet. I think a step back is inevitable for them. You could say the same about Indiana. I get it. But I think Illinois does take that step back. But them being high to start the year, I don't hate it at all. And then he's pretty chalk here, which I think most people would be. He's got Oregon at 3, Ohio State at 2, and Penn State at 1. And that's about accurate. The Penn State Nittany Lions are the best team going into the season. Don't know if you saw these comments from James Franklin the other day at Big Ten Media Days, but he said, this is the best team we've had, the best staff we've had, the best personnel we've had here at Happy Valley, yada, yada, yada. It's like, man, he is fully accepting what this year is going to be. It is national title or bust. It's what our buddy Zach Seiko says, and I believe it. You have to win the national title if you're James Franklin and Penn State this year. Ohio State at 2, Oregon at 3. I think that is just about accurate. So again, he's got Indiana at 5. I respect it. I think it's good enough. I think it is good for what the season could be. I think Indiana can move up. We could surely move down if we lose some games too. But overall, there's a couple of things I'm like, I don't know there, Spencer. But for the most part, I think our buddy Spencer McLaughlin did a pretty good job there with his Big Ten conference rankings. All right, coming up in our final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers, we will look at what the Big Ten media had to say in terms of their honors for Big Ten football and where Indiana players stacked up in the voting this week at Big Ten Media Day. We'll talk about that in our final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. All right, final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here and supporting this show. We are close to the start of August, and that means football is right around the corner, man. We play football in like 3.5 weeks. Not us in particular, not Indiana, but college football itself is right around the corner. And we're so excited to be here for it. We're covering IU all season long, the Big Ten, all of our opponents. And so this is where you need to be. All right. Make sure that if you are on audio or video, that you are subscribed, following, notifications are turned on, whatever you got to do. I don't want you missing any episodes here on Locked On Hoosiers because we're about to ramp up our coverage here. And I really want you to be a part of that. And so for my audio folks, again, follow us, hit the bell, turn on those notifications on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel. You'll get notified when we post new episodes. I want to hear from you, though, down in the YouTube comments, your thoughts on paying players, how it's just not going away and it's probably going to get worse. Also on Spencer's Big Ten Power Rankings. Would love to hear what you have to say on those as well, or on some of these Big Ten honors that we're about to talk about. Any of those, hit me up, drop a thought down in the YouTube comments below. All of that helps, and I really do want to see what you have to say. All right, so as we get going in this final segment here, the Big Ten preseason honors, okay? They do this at Big Ten Media Days, and it's a little different than other conferences do. I know the SEC does a big voting thing with the media where they do like a predicted order of finish. They do like a first, second, third, all SEC preseason team or media team, whatever they call it, which is cool. But it's all predictions, right? It's all just kind of guessing. And most people, I think, take it seriously. Of course, there are some homers who throw some, Vanderbilt players in there, or Kentucky players or whatever. But the Big Ten doesn't quite do that. They just kind of throw together a preseason honors list, and there's no real organization. It's just kind of, here you go. Here's a list of players we think are going to be good this year in the Big Ten. All right, cool. Ready, break. And I mean, it's fine. There's a lot. There's a lot of players on this list. And Indiana does make a couple of appearances, which is cool. I mean, you're talking about guys like Luke Altmaier, of course, quarterback at Illinois. You're talking about Logan Jones, the center at Iowa, Caleb Downs, Ohio State safety. Jeremiah Smith, believe, was the only unanimous selection on this list for obvious reasons. He's going to be the best receiver in the country this year. Drew Aller's on here from Penn State. Sonny Styles is on here from Ohio State. I think only 7 schools had players on this list. So only 7 schools had a player on this preseason honors list. Minnesota makes an appearance with a DB. Coy Parrish is on here from the Golden Gophers. Oregon has several guys on here. Dylan Thieneman, the defensive back from the Ducks. And oh yeah, there's Indiana. We have a couple of guys on this list as well. Michael Kamara makes his appearance on the defensive line. We expect him to be All-American potential this year up front. He represented the Hoosiers this week at Big Ten Media Days. D'Angelo Pons is on here as well. I'm glad he's starting to get some love and get his flowers again. He is an All-American. I just want people to remember that. The fact that our boy D'Angelo Pons, who did decide to come back for another year, is an All-American defensive back, okay? So I'm glad he got his love in there as well. But that was it. Those are the only 2 that Indiana got on this preseason honors list. And I think there are several who could have made this list. The obvious ones like a Aiden Fisher, like an Elijah Surratt, who did appear at media days for us, right? Represent the Hoosiers. But I think there are some names, and I talked about this the other day. I think there are some names that aren't being talked about enough that could make their way on this list. I think a Roman Hemby in the running back room could find his way there. I think Fernando Mendoza could find his way there. I think Holden Stays, the tight end, could be on this list at some point as well. And I want to see if some dudes on the defensive line other than Michael Kamara can find their way there. Or maybe a safety. I mean, you've got some good ones. You've got some young ones back there, but maybe they could find their way on some sort of a postseason list for the Big Ten. Again, there's no real organization here, but it is nice to know that Indiana used to never get guys on this list. And now you're getting several. Both of them just happen to be on the defensive side of the football. But overall, Indiana has talent and people know it, but they don't know to what extent. And I'm excited for people to figure that out when they hit the field coming up in just a few weeks. We're less than we're a little bit over a month, right? Yeah, a little bit over a month from when this comes out for the college football season starting. And so excited for that. Big Ten Media Days wraps up today, and then boom, we're in it, man. Football season is here, and I cannot wait for the Hoosiers to get started. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here. Greatly appreciate you. Really appreciate your support. And hey, coming around the corner, I don't know exactly when it's going to get started, but there is a cool announcement with us here at the Locked On Network, podcast network, in terms of Big Ten. We got a new host joining the show. And for us Indiana Hoosiers fans, it's going to really warm our hearts for a second before we get to yell at each other. Our rival is now getting a show. We'll tell you more about it when it all comes to fruition, but very excited about what the future holds here at the Locked On Big Ten part of things on the podcast network. And so looking forward to having a rival join the network and somebody we get to talk to about football, basketball, and beyond with the other team in the state of Indiana. And so I'll leave it at that. All right, we're back tomorrow, Hoosier fans, for another episode. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.